All right, I think we'll get going. We want to be mindful of everyone's time. It is 8:30 here on the East Coast. Welcome to everyone who's joined us tonight. My name is Michelle Perry. I am one of the CS for All teachers support teams, and we are happy to welcome you all to tonight's webinar. If you've just joined us, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. We strongly encourage during the Q&A sessions to speak up verbally. So feel free to call in the conference number, or if there's an option to have it dial out to you, go ahead and do that. You're also welcome at any point to put questions or comments in the chat. Tonight's webinar is the first in our two-part series on preparing for CS Education Week coming up in December. We are happy to have Cullen White from Teach for America with us tonight, and I will turn it over to him to kick off our webinar for the evening.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Michelle. I really appreciate the warm welcome. So like Michelle said, we'll go and get started here with our webinar. A quick overview of the agenda. We're going to do some quick introductions here in just a moment, and then we'll run through what Claire Shorall did in Oakland Unified School District for CS Ed Week and what her plans are here moving forward into this year's CS Ed Week. And then Jaishri Shankar will review what she did with some local partners in a rural context for CS Ed Week in South Carolina. And we'll get some time for Q&A and just touch real quickly on a couple of additional resources. So without further ado, let's get to introductions. As Michelle said, I'm Cullen White. I'm with Teach for America, and I serve as the Director of Computer Science. Before joining the team in this role, I taught in Prince George's County, Maryland. Multiple computer science classes. Absolutely loved it, completely changed my life and changed the lives of my students as well. And so now I work for Teach for America, traveling around the country, helping other teachers start computer science programs at their school. A real quick housekeeping note for everybody too. I've got some notes that we're going to be taking here during tonight's webinar. If you go ahead and click that Google Doc link, I'll make sure to go ahead and post that in the chat too, in case you have any troubles clicking on it. So there you go. I wanted to go ahead and make sure this is available for everybody so that they can leave here with a single document that has all the tips and tricks that Claire and Jayshree are going to offer. All right. Vicki, we'll go ahead and get that fixed up here real quickly and make sure you're all set. All right, so that should be fixed if you go ahead and refresh. We've been having some issues with Google Docs in our internal system, so keep me posted if it doesn't change the permissions, and we'll get it fixed in the background here. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce Claire Shorall. So Claire, do you want to go ahead and take it over and introduce yourself?
Sure. So like Colin said, my name's Claire. I lead computer science education for Oakland Unified School District. And I still actually maintain one class at what's known as my placement high school, so where Teach for America placed me 7 years ago, yes, which is Castlemont High School, and it's in East Oakland, California. So let's see. Can I control my own slides? Go on. Oh, I guess that's my intro. I will say I've been leading computer science education in Oakland Unified since September 2015, so just about 14, 15 months. And this year we're super excited that we had a 400% increase in enrollment since last year, so we're now up to about 2,800 students, 6th through 12th grade in Oakland Unified, who are enrolled in a year-long CS course. So that's me.
Yeah, absolutely incredible stats, Claire. You should definitely be applauded for all of your hard work there. And secondly, I'd love for Jayshree to go ahead and take a moment to introduce herself as well.
Yeah, Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Jaishri, and I am also a Teach for America alum. I currently teach two sections of Algebra 1 and then two sections of an advanced math and computing course here in Washington, D.C. at a brand new school called Washington Leadership Academy, um, where we're trying to make computer science for all a reality as a part of our graduation requirements. So all of our students do take computer science as freshmen, and will also take AP Computer Science as 10th graders, which will quadruple the number of African American students who took computer science, the AP Computer Science exam in DC as of next year. So that's pretty exciting. Before I moved back to DC, I taught for 3 years in rural South Carolina. I was an 8th grade science teacher and ran several after school and weekend computer science and coding opportunities, including CS First by Google, and coached robotics in my 2nd year as well. So computer science is something I'm a champion of. I'm looking always to integrate concepts in CS and, across disciplines as much as I can to make sure that I'm advocating for our kids to be thinking about problems and solving them and computer science every step of the way.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jayshree. So we're going to go ahead and get started off with Claire telling her story, and then we'll move on to Jayshree next after Claire. So Claire, I'll let you go ahead and take it away.
I'm going to assume that means I can touch the slide. So, ooh, are you getting an echo? Are other people getting that?
No, Claire.
I am. I'm going to put myself on mute and see if that gets fixed.
Okay. Well, okay, so I was incredibly fortunate last year in September of 2015 to take on a role leading computer science education in Oakland Unified. So that position didn't exist prior to that point, and the impetus behind it was we really want to get computer science in more schools. So Oakland's located immediately adjacent to Silicon Valley, and it's a social justice issue if kids don't have access to computer science. I would argue probably everywhere, but it was particularly jarring in the Bay. And so we decided that Computer Science Education Week would be a catalyst in order to get that work started. And what you see in this image are our students who we deemed quote-unquote code champions. So they were students from high schools across the city that we engaged in order to run the Hour of Code Oak, which was what we deemed our CS Ed Week activities last year. And so these students, just so that you know, come from 12 of our 16 high schools. They came in teams of 3 to 6 students per high school. And what they're holding up on the sign is actually what coding means to them. I know you can't see too many given the overlay, but it was a powerful group. And actually, I think it would be important to point out now that we asked schools specifically to pick students with leadership potential, but who maybe had not served in this capacity before, or kids who had incredible passion for computer science and how they could spread it at their school site. So in 2015, like I've said, so our intention was to mobilize this group of young people in order to be the catalyst for change at their actual school site. So I wanted to make sure, as the manager of computer science, that every conversation that I had with a principal thereafter, they had already had a conversation with students at their site. And so we thought that this would be a great promotion strategy in order to get computer science into every school, which is why we actually concentrated at high school. We thought it was a scope that we would be able to actually affect. So Oakland Unified is about 40,000 kids, of which roughly 10,000 are high schoolers. So our tactic was this. I got together with an organization called the Hidden Genius Project, and then the Level Playing Field Institute and the K4 Center, which are local nonprofits in Oakland. And we put together this Code Champion Day. So it was a full day where we not only exposed students to the Hour of Code, but we actually asked them to create a classroom plan, so a lesson plan that all the teachers at their school could implement. And then also to create a school-wide plan that they would share with a principal in a meeting. And so there's a folder with all of the materials, but We had students give mock principal meetings. There were rubrics in order to give them feedback on the process. We were really clear about the types of leadership capacity that we wanted to grow in students in relation to CS Ed Week. So those student leaders were then deployed at their sites, and they actually did the bulk of the organization. There were rare instances where, because of like media presence or something, that adults would step in and really support programmatically at the site. But for the most part, it was kids running Computer Science Education Week at their schools, which was really remarkable. And I think it was the catalyst for getting computer science. We now have it in 12 of 16 high schools, and every single high school that participated has a class. So I can't see any clearer link, and I really credit CS Education Week for being that catalyst. What was also great was that we were able to engage local industry in coming into the classroom. So we were just running your typical hour of code module. So students, as a part of their lesson plan for teachers, picked like 4 high-interest hour of code sessions for students to choose from. So we weren't creating any content. It was a pretty easy lesson to run, but we did decide to engage local employers, including Salesforce, who came out in force. And so we had roughly 150 Salesforce volunteers go into classrooms, much of this organized by students as well. And this past year, we actually received a $2.5 million grant from Salesforce as a district, and I think a lot of it had to do with the goodwill. Not that I'm saying that everybody's going out trying to pursue millions, but I will say that this is an engagement strategy for industry that's in your area, because they want to be in the classrooms, and I think particularly having students be leaders was eye-opening for them. So this year, in 2016, we are totally changing course, because once you get a model right, you always have to complicate things, right? But in 2016, our intention is to go beyond. Actually, that is our theme. Our theme is beyond, and we're thinking beyond the hour, beyond just coding, beyond the pipeline. And so this is largely due to the fact that the idea of an hour, quote unquote, is antithetical to kids taking a year-long class. And we saw the engagement that we had with Salesforce, with Intel, with other companies last year, and we want to broaden the participation across the city. And so we realized that there's a ton of technical expertise in the Bay, but technology is pervasive in all industries, and even at the companies that we typically think of as tech, so the Googles, the Apples, the Facebooks, et cetera, of the world, that not everyone in those companies are working in technical roles. And so this year's emphasis is bringing in not just engineers, but product managers, recruiters, marketers, communications, across the board, just running the gamut at tech companies, because as students have access to this type of thinking and exposure to technology, we don't want to limit them in what they're doing. So our tactic is, our district has a read-in model, so we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. The read-in takes place for elementary schools traditionally, but it's a way to organize, to have a call out to volunteers and to organize volunteers to go into classrooms. So we paired up with our Ed Fund, and they're doing the recruitment. And I would just say, like, because we were shifting the model so dramatically, if there is a system or process at your school or in your district that already works to engage community members to really tap that resource. We also came up with a branding strategy, so this is relatively large scale, but we decided that this Beyond thing, people could organize their own events in the spirit of CS Ed Week, and then we would put it underneath our Beyond strategy. I'm in the process of encouraging all principals to sign up. I think if you're thinking about a school level, having like everyone at a grade level sign up, or all of this one type of teacher, for example, like all math teachers or all English teachers, so that every kid in the school has access, that's a really worthy goal. Our hopeful outcomes is that we see increased relevancy of tech in students' lives, like that they're able to articulate the increased relevancy, especially given that so many of them are in this class. It's mandatory for basically every ninth grader in the entire district, and so we're looking at ways to the perceived relevancy. We as adults feel like it's there, but we want to make sure that kids are fully on board as well. And then this is a citywide strategy, so we committed with the CS for All initiative last year, so Obama's CS for All. We committed as a city to ensure that all students by 2020 in the district would have computer science, and that's only really possible to be both rigorous and meaningful if for-profits, nonprofits, government, et cetera, are fully on board. And so we're hoping that this is enough of an event and the scale of it is large enough that computer science education becomes something that everyone in the city is able to point to and say that they know is happening. I'm going to go back. So I would say this is my full-time job now. I was a classroom teacher, and so I still teach one class, but I was a full-time classroom teacher at one point, and so I'm not necessarily saying replicate what we're doing in the city, but I will say that there are some nuggets to glean from. I think if you are working with students at the secondary level, that student leadership is key, especially because the modules are relatively simple to just click on and have kids do. Having student leadership and having them be the ones who are driving the hour of code activities or whatever your CS Ed week activities is a really powerful experience. I would say if I was an individual in a classroom, I would want to engage at least one for a nonprofit to send somebody into my classroom to speak or to help, just to even begin to create that bond. And if not, if you're unaware of that resource in your community, code.org actually has a volunteer sign up. I think also students think of computer science sometimes as limiting, or they have this stereotypical, your archetype of dude sitting in his basement typing on the computer coding, and we're trying to blow that up. So just being intentional about how you're trying to engage students with computer science work. But I really suggest that you go in and look at the resources, even if it's just taking the rubric about how to support students to create a lesson plan. It might be super helpful moving forward, just as a model for student engagement in all different types of celebrations. So yeah, but I cannot underscore how impactful this work was. So if you are a CS advocate or champion and you want to see this work happen beyond just your four walls, this is just an incredible opportunity for visibility and for getting parents and students and community invested in what you're doing.
Awesome, Claire. Thank you so much for taking those steps back too, and sort of like bringing it to the beginning as well. I think that what you've done is super impressive. It speaks volumes to what a lot of the folks that have joined us tonight can do over time with a lot of hard work. And so I really appreciate the fact that you just brought it back to that classroom-based perspective for a second, to keep all of those, to keep that orientation in mind, right, given the fact that that very well may be where a lot of folks are starting today. So with that being said, though, feel free to continue asking questions of Claire in the chat. We are going to have a live Q&A session here after Jayshree tells her story. So Jayshree, would you go ahead and tell us about all the wonderful things you've done?
Yeah, sure. So my frame is a little bit different. I am from the classroom out. And so the stories that I wanted to share are twofold. The first, the pictures that you see on the screen are they're about a year old actually now. They happened last September, and they're kind of an example in how, the context that I was in was very rural. Kingstree, South Carolina had a population of 3,000 people. and the nearest large industry at all was 45 minutes away in a different city, which was, and a lot of those industries were invested in education in their own areas. But I also was and continue to be committed to bringing computer science education and just computational thinking and pushing the bar for kids, for all kids. And so the pictures that you see are a weekend event that happened with a partner. You see the in shirts, the big blue shirts in the top left corner. We actually hosted an all-day Saturday coding camp. We hosted 3 concurrent camps across the state of South Carolina, partnered with a local nonprofit run by a woman from Charlotte, North Carolina, who was interested in bringing computer science to kids in the Carolinas. And she reached out to us and said, hey, I'm interested in doing this. I have the technical know-how. Can you help me with the logistical support and putting us in front of kids? And so from there, it turned into us supporting 3 separate camps and a total of 100 girls across the state of South Carolina spending a day with computer science majors, computer science graduate students. They learned how to build their own websites. They learned about what it means to be a woman in the field of computing, particularly a woman of color in the field of computing. And that, I think, we did that in September, and that planted a seed for later events that I did throughout the school year, whether it was during CS Education Week with another local partner, ITology, or later on with after-school clubs like robotics or computer science education. I think the biggest thing that I've taken away from this is that starting the conversation is key, especially now I teach high school where taking a computer science course is a thing. You know, our kids at WLA are signed up for a computer science course, but I think the earlier that you can start the conversation, the better, because once you plant that seed in a child's mind through a weekend opportunity like InTech, or through an after-school club like CS First, or any hour of code event during CS Ed Week, and kids have an opportunity to see what it means to be engaging in computer science, in coding, in some type of computational thinking, in some type of problem solving or puzzle that piques their interest, they are more likely to latch on to it and continue through that. So here I've shared a little bit about what we did. I do have a couple of tips, especially as I was planning. I think the biggest thing for me was taking a step back from computer science itself, the word computer more operationally, and thinking about computer science as a whole and what it means for kids. The first thing I can think of is, out of all of the opportunities you have out there, I love unplugged activities. I think
The leader has disconnected. The conference will be terminated in 5 minutes.
Hello? I don't know what just happened.
Just keep it going.
Okay.
I think we'll be fine.
So I love unplugged activities. I taught in a place for 3 years that did not have consistent internet access, and that also did not have access to technology for all kids. And so making sure all kids had an hour of code or had exposure to some type of event meant going unplugged. So I think my challenge there would be to think outside the box if you're not able to provide technology. And the second piece, which I think is key for me, I know 0 things about computer science, continue to know 0 things about computer science, and I'm always the person, I try to be the person that reaches out to figure out how I can get other people who know how to do it into a classroom and provide logistical support. So a key example would be, right now we're in the process of talking to Accenture, which has a classroom volunteer program. And the engineers at Accenture know what they're doing on the technical side of things, and our teachers know what we're doing on the classroom side of things. And so partnering with them means that I can provide a classroom and students and logistical support in terms of like a school and how the classroom runs, and helping students with whatever I can. But the volunteers from Accenture are able to bring their technical expertise and lend a helping hand to students. And that's kind of a double impact there, because not only are they able to teach students what they know, kids can also interact with people in fields of computing from diverse backgrounds, which I think is key to this. And then the last piece that I can say is with Hour of Code and anything that you're looking to do, I never have any of the details planned out. That was the case for this event that we did on the Saturday. I literally put an application in May before the school year ended, and in June got an email saying the app had been accepted and had been funded. All we had submitted was an idea for a weekend camp. We had no idea how it was going to work, where it was going to be, what we were going to do. But we submitted the application as a framework and then spent a little bit of time fleshing out details once we had time to kind of digest it and think through it. So if you're looking to plan something with a local partner and have just like an inkling of an idea for what this could look like, I would say reach out and start building that framework. And the more time you have to put into it in terms of thinking, the more you get to know about your students, the more you figure out what you want the outcomes to be, you can definitely flesh it out later. I'm happy to be a person to talk through ideas with. I love being a sounding board, and I definitely appreciate so much that I've heard. So if you're looking for a sounding board, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Jayshree, thanks so much for sharing all that you've done. And I have to apologize. I think that I might have been the source of the echo this entire time.
I think you should be good now.
Let's hope so.
Yep.
All right. Perfect. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. So as promised, we'll go ahead and move on to a section of Q&A here. And just so that we don't have to go ahead and open it up with an audience question, I feel like I'll go ahead and get everything started just by asking both of you a real quick and hopefully simple question. What was the very first step that you took to make these initiatives come to life? Like literally just the very first step that you took to make this happen.
I guess I'm unmuted, so I'll go first. The very first step that we took, and I say we, was that, so the Hidden Genius Project is a nonprofit in Oakland, and same with the K4 Center for Social Impact. And representatives from those two groups came together, and they're like, we should do something with the Hour of Code. And I was like, meh, I don't really. CS Ed Week seems kind of cheesy, and they just really pushed on me. And I will also say, so we have a district partnership with code.org, so I knew we'd be doing something during that week because we were going to be officially signing our partnership. So I just sort of felt like that was enough, and the those two organizations really spurred me on to think more, I guess, broadly about how the impact could be leveraged.
I would say that the first step for InTech that I can remember was a phone call during final exams in May when we had, it was the end of, I think it was May 2015, and I was on the phone with Kalia, who is the founder of the nonprofit InTech, and she said, I want to do this camp for girls in South Carolina. And I said, okay, great. And then she sent me an application that was like, we want to do this camp for girls in South Carolina. We didn't know when, we didn't know how, we didn't know what it was going to look like, but we submitted the application with a framework in mind. And then it kind of fleshed itself out and worked. We kind of worked the details out and fleshed out the smaller pieces of it from there.
Awesome. So it sounds like both of you had some really wonderful partners who you've highlighted throughout this call. I'm wondering, you've probably picked other partners up along the way that you've been able to work with. Do you have any advice for everybody on the line with regards to how to approach reaching out or making new partners?
Yeah, go ahead. No, you go first.
Okay. Yeah, I would say I tend to, my strategy has always just been to reach out. I think if you can find being in an urban area now, it's a lot easier in terms of being able to find industries that have programs already built in or organizations that have programs already built in for outreach, especially for computing and technical education, where you can have classroom volunteers and there's a structure already attached to it or a framework for how to go about doing that. Um, but I think also the piece I picked up and appreciate the most from my time in Kingstree is that if you have no idea how to do something and want to find someone who does, I think the more people you talk to and the more people you connect with, um, the better chance you have at finding it. So I just sent a lot of emails to people and said, hey, listen, I'm a teacher. I'm looking to bring this to students. Can you help me, or do you know someone who can help me? And I think the connections kind of fleshed out a little bit from there because so many people wanted to bring that to students as well.
So I would add that there's probably organizations within your school district and or local community, whether it be like a chamber of commerce, whether it be a local representative. There's somebody who's already doing the work of engaging employers, and so you can tap into those networks. If not, I mentioned this beforehand, but code.org is a relatively good clearinghouse, and I believe that they still have this, if not Teals, which is a Microsoft subsidiary. It's like Teals K-12. They do like distance mentoring, etc. So I clearly haven't worked in a rural context, and I would imagine that things are much more challenging, but there should be still some organizing body. I would just, if I had to sum it up, I'd say don't invent the wheel for yourself. Somebody already has all these people in a Rolodex.
That's fantastic advice. I wish that when I was sitting here pondering what I was going to do for CS Ed Week 4 years ago or 3 years ago, I guess, I wish that I would have heard those things. Did anybody who's with us tonight have any questions that they wanted to go ahead and ask of our panelists? Feel free to either unmute yourself or go ahead and type your questions into the chat box. You're definitely welcome, Sabrina. Claire and Jayshree, I want to go ahead and give everybody a little bit more time, but I also want to be respectful knowing that it is just past 9 o'clock on the East Coast right now. I'm wondering, do you have any other pieces of advice that you want to offer to folks in terms of preparing, whether it's a CS Ed Week or an hour of code for their classroom, for their school, or for their district?
This is a nerdy suggestion, but you'll have a great time doing it, which is if you haven't gone on to code.org or the CS Ed Week site to actually play around with one of the modules, I would really, really suggest it just so that you get a sense of what students would be doing. I'm not like a plug for code.org necessarily, but I will say I did get a series of emails today that code.org wrote a whole bunch of lesson plans that are supposed to be for other content areas. So, a computer science lesson in an English class, in a social studies class, etc., which I actually think is where we're probably moving in education just in general. So if you want to be on the cutting edge of that. But my suggestion, if I had to boil it down, would be go and play around just so that you have a sense of how this would operate in your classroom. If you want to get fancy with it, have 4 or 5 kids stay at lunch or after school and have them play around with a couple and have them tell you their favorite.
Yeah, I would say, Claire, both of those suggestions are like right up the alley. I sat in our computer science class the other day and solved puzzles with our kids for 45 minutes, and it was about the most fun I think I've had all week. I think the other piece, which also kids really enjoy, is if you know if you have a colleague who is also looking to do an hour of code in their classroom, or just like a teacher who you're really good friends with, either in a different content area, whatever it may be, it's a lot of fun to like combine classes and do it as a cool thing for kids. It's fun for kids to see that interaction. It's fun for you to do it with another teacher and co-facilitate. There's so many different activities out there. So I would say like hour of code is as much fun for the adults really as it is for the kids. So start there. I love playing around on CodeHS. I love playing around on code.org's modules and figuring out what the kids are going to be doing. Most of the time they correct me, and so I think like find the fun and go from there.
I'm sorry, if you say that you've been on code.org and stuff, or CodeHS, Jayshree, then you know some CS. You should be less self-deprecating about it.
Shorall the dog go in a square. That's what I learned this week.
I will also just say this because it's timely. So last night I had the opportunity to go to this Girl Geek dinner hosted at Berkeley, and there were a whole bunch of undergrads, one of which was a former student, but the rest of them weren't, and they all had these name tags on, and 6 of the 8 young women that I was talking to at one point all said that they were computer science majors on their name tag, and so I was like, lightning round. How did you get into computer science? And 2 of them literally said, I did the hour of code, and now they're majoring in CS at Berkeley. And both of them were one was from Salinas and one was from someplace else in the Central Valley of California where there's not great access. So I think actually literally the hour of code was all that those kids really had access to. And so I guess it was one of those like, whoa, this is far more impactful than I think we even could possibly realize. So you don't know whose lives you're changing with just a 60-minute lesson.
Yeah, and I think that that's definitely the point, right? Like, this is really about introducing people. It's not about even going too deep or doing too much. We don't have to overcomplicate anything, but it really does just start with an hour, right? And that could lead to a lifetime of interest. So,
Cullen,
did anybody else have any other questions?
I'm just wondering if there's anything, Cullen, from your experience that's worthwhile to share if you actually did this. Go ahead.
So very similar to what you had mentioned, Claire, you know, I got my students involved with running an hour of code at our school and then across a couple of different schools in Prince George's County. One of the most successful things that our student leaders were able to do, though, was something at the local library. And so we actually asked our high school students, I taught grades 9 through 12, we asked them to reach out and develop a relationship with the local libraries, which ultimately led to them hosting, mini CS or like web development courses for students in grades 4 through 8 at the local library. And then they also ended up going to different elementary schools to host an hour of code. So it's really impactful, and I think that the most impactful thing wasn't even necessarily teaching, you know, coding to other students, but it was actually just becoming mentors and seeing how impactful they could be in working with younger students and what that could mean for their futures, both for my high school students and for the younger students as well. So Definitely don't forget about your local elementary schools or other schools in the area, and definitely do not forget about your public library systems, because they are almost always looking for partners to bring opportunities like this to life for anybody that comes to the libraries. So something to think about there, hopefully. So it is 10 after the hour, and I just wanted to see, did anybody have any final comments or parting words before we take off for the night? Looks like Quinn's typing something here. Oh, Quinn, thank you so much for your time as well. We really appreciate everybody who joined us tonight. I'm really definitely glad that we could be of assistance. If you need anything at all, I know that Jayshree and Claire both provided their contact info, and Claire provided her folder of resources. I'll make sure that my email is also in the Google Doc too, so that everybody can access that later on. I know you're probably in the throes of November, which can always be challenging right before you enter break. There's a link in the chat to the Google Doc again, and we do have a couple of additional resources to underscore for you. The link to the Google Doc is there again on this slide, but also to Jayshree mentioned the Aspire IT initiative from National Center for Women in Information Technology. Definitely check that out. It's a great opportunity to get resources for future CS Ed Week events, but also just for any after-school event you might be interested in hosting down the road. So, Bobby, thanks again. Thank you to everyone that joined us tonight. And Michelle, I'll kick it to you in case you have anything to say on behalf of the CS for All teacher community.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks, Cullen, Claire, and Jaishri. So just for those of you who have joined us, if this is your first CS for All webinar, we do have many events each month. Consider joining us for part 2 of our Preparing for CS Ed Week webinar series. That will be November 16th with Colleen Lewis of CS Teaching Tips. She's done some great things with us, and that will be another exciting webinar to join. We have a couple other webinars coming up November 30th, and then during CS Ed Week, we do a photo contest. Information for that will be coming soon. Also, if you have any suggestions for webinars that you'd like to see, feel free to shoot us an email at csforallteachers@aier.org. If you're not already a member of our teacher community, it is a free website. Go to csforallteachers.org. Sign up this year as part of our expanded mission. We have communities for elementary, middle, as well as our high school ETS and CSP groups, and then other general groups where you can connect with other teachers and get some great resources. We are also on Twitter with a community growing every day. So hop on there and connect with us. We love to hear from our community members and our audience. And once again, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Cullen, Claire, and Jaishri, and have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
See you later.